What happens when people acquire a treasure that can change their lives, but lack the experience or knowledge to manage it? What happens when the hopes and dreams of a poor family are corrupted and sabotaged by the wealthy? Conflict. The Pearl by John Steinbeck presents this situation and shows how it creates external and internal conflicts. External conflicts are struggles that occur between two forces or characters. The most common types are person versus nature, person versus society, and person versus fate. Internal conflicts involve a struggle within a character, usually the protagonist. This struggle can be based in a difficult decision or a clash of emotions. In literature, external conflicts often cause internal ones. This lesson takes a look at some examples of external and internal conflicts in The Pearl. Kino is a poor man whose life is transformed when he finds a large pearl. While he dreams of a better life for his family, he immediately becomes the target of greedy people, such as the doctor, the pearl dealers, and the trackers. Even the natural elements seem to stand in the path to his dream. As he deals with these external conflicts, Kino is affected internally as he becomes increasingly angry and obsessed by his wealth. First, let's look at the conflict between Kino and the doctor. In Chapter 1, baby Koyotito is bitten by a scorpion, and Kino and his wife Wana decide to take him to the doctor. This is a rare occurrence for simple native people, and Kino fears the doctor won't help him because he's of a race which, for nearly 400 years, had beaten and starved and robbed and despised Kino's race. When Kino asks for help for his son, he's denied because he hasn't enough money. Later, after the whole town is abuzz with the news of Kino's great pearl, the doctor comes to his brush hut to treat the baby with a special capsule. Koyotito becomes sick once again, but the doctor returns to save him for a price. The reader realizes that the doctor has made the baby sick so he can cure him, but Kino and Wana do not. The conflict is between the doctor and Kino, but is symbolic of prejudice and racism. The doctor is a privileged European, and Kino is an indigenous peasant. The first major conflict in the novel sets up a rage in Kino that carries throughout the plot. Even though he knows it's unlikely that the doctor in town will help his injured child, Kino swallows his pride and goes to see him. The money Kino offers to be admitted to the doctor's residence is not enough, causing anger to swirl with shame and helplessness. He violently punches the iron gate, bloodying his fist. Kino also experiences external conflict with the pearl dealers. When he tries to sell his giant pearl to the dealers in town, they offer 1,000 pesos, a price that he considers very low. The dealers had been aware of Kino's find and prepared their reason for the low offer. The pearl is too large to use for jewelry and is just a monstrosity. Kino is enraged at the offer, believing the pearl dealers are using his lack of knowledge and their position as the town's only dealers against him. He determines that he'll not sell the pearl locally and will travel to the capital to get a fair deal. Unfortunately, the negotiations don't end there. That night, an intruder, either a greedy individual or one sent by the pearl brokers, attacks Kino in his own house. Believing the pearl to be evil, Wana begs Kino to destroy it, but he refuses, saying this is their one chance for the future. Later, Kino kills one of the men who are trying to steal his pearl. The violent conflict escalates when all of Kino's possessions, his canoe and hut, are destroyed. The encounter with the pearl dealers and their dark agents causes Kino's attitude to change. At first, Kino and Wana allow themselves to dream that they'll be able to get married in the church, buy new clothes, and educate their child from the proceeds. But as Kino's frustration with the tactics of the pearl dealers increases, Kino becomes more stubborn and violent, a sign of his internal conflict. There's also external conflict between Kino's family and the trackers. Soon after Kino, Wana, and Koyotito set out for the capital to get a better price for the pearl, they realize they're being followed by a man on horseback and two others on foot. They have obviously been sent by the pearl dealers to acquire the treasure, and Wana realizes immediately that they'll kill the family to get the pearl. The trackers continue to pursue them through the desert and into the mountains, scouring the land for clues. Kino has some knowledge of how to confuse the trackers, and he uses this to the best of his ability. And finally, let's look at the external conflict between Kino's family and the natural elements. To travel to the capital, Kino must take his family by foot across a desert and through the mountains. They face heat and fierce wind and find little cover. This alone is a difficult journey, but as they become targets of unknown hunters, the surroundings make it difficult for them to gain an advantage. When Kino, Wana, and Koyotito are chased into the mountains, they find it very difficult to maneuver the rocks and thorny branches. This conflict makes it seem less and less likely that Kino's dreams for his family will be accomplished. Now let's explore some of the internal conflicts in the Pearl. Both Kino and Wana experience internal conflicts after Kino finds the Pearl. Although Kino's conscience tells him that violence is wrong, his pride is challenged by external conflicts that lead him to become violent. Meanwhile, Wana is torn between her loyalty to her husband and her realization that the Pearl is becoming a threat to her family. A key issue in the plot is that Kino is a simple man who's not knowledgeable about life outside his small village. For example, he doesn't know if the doctor is helping or hurting his child. He doesn't know if the price quoted by the local pearl dealers is a good one. He doesn't know if it is better to stay put or leave. The windfall of finding the pearl causes Kino a crisis of pride. To admit what he doesn't know will injure his pride and his strength as leader of his family. This conflict causes a violence to emerge in Kino. He pounds his fist on the doctor's gate, kills a man on the path near his hut, and savagely beats Wana. This conflict is symbolized by the change in the songs Kino hears. As the plot progresses, the song of the family is replaced by the song of evil, and Kino becomes as cold and deadly as steel. Throughout the book, Wana is unwavering in her support of Kino. She knows she will accompany him even as he becomes more violent, even as he kills a man, even as her child is endangered in the wilderness. But even as she asserts her role as Kino's wife despite his actions, she knows the pearl is the source of their misfortunes. Several times throughout the novel, Wana tells Kino they should get rid of the pearl. She begs Kino to leave the pearl, and on a few occasions, she tries to throw it away herself. After Koyotito is killed by the trackers and Kino realizes that the pearl has cost him his son, the couple returns home, defeated, to throw the pearl back into the sea. The reader recognizes that Wana was right all along. This internal conflict highlights one of the main questions of the novel. Is the threat of losing everything worth gaining everything you've ever dreamed of? The Pearl is a novel with a simple plot and complex struggles. The external conflicts pit Kino against the doctor, the pearl dealers, the trackers, and even the elements. The internal conflicts include Kino's struggle between his pride and his conscience, and Wana's concern over her loyalty to her husband and her fears for her family. Kino and Wana's battles remind us that pursuing wealth at any cost can cost us everything.